Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we will talk about control flow statements. First, let's look at a simple program. In a simple program, statements are executed one after another, from top to bottom. This is very normal for a simple program, as it does not do any complicated tasks. It gets an input and processes it, and it provides us an output and ends the program. But what if we want to influence the program with some conditions? That is exactly when control flow statements pitches in. So, what are control flow statements? Control flow statements are those that makes decision about what happens in program. This would create regions in the code that would be unreachable. A programmer needs to take care that the conditions used do not contradict one another. The most known control flow used is if statements. In this video, let's look at all the control statements available in JavaScript. Before moving on, I want you to look at the flow diagram on the video. After the condition, the program splits into two based on whether the given condition is true or false, out of which one of the region is unreachable to execute. Now let us code all of this. Alright, let us look at code. In this piece of code, I'll be checking for the age of a person. If the person is older than 18 or equal to 18, we will mark the person is eligible for voting. Else, we will mark the person is not eligible for voting. A block is something written within two flower braces. In the first block, we will write what will happen if the condition is true. In the second block, after the else, we will write what happens if the condition is false. So initially, I have set the age to 16, hence it is not eligible. Now, when I change the age to 18, we see that the console log says eligible for voting. The same thing holds good for any value greater than 18. If the value is lesser than 18, we will log not eligible. This is how you implement a simple if statement. We've also covered else in this part. So hopefully you've understood both of it. I wanted to tell another important thing about if. You can just use if without having to use else. Let's see one demonstration. So here again, I'm starting with age is equal to 18. We're checking the condition. If the age is greater than 18, we're just logging the age is greater than 18. Here we do not have any else statement. I'm trying to include one additional statement which will execute irrespective of the if block. I have added an additional console log statement. There was an error. I used colon instead of semicolon. I've corrected and re-executed. If you see, when the age is lesser than 18, only the last console log line is printed. But when age is greater than 18, it has gone into if block. It has printed both the console logs. So that is how you use just an if statement. Hope now you're clear with the difference between if and if else. Moving on, let us look at if else ladder. Let us clear the console and start fresh. We'll start with something similar, but here we will check if the person is eligible for a full license or a probationary driving license, or is it just eligible for a learner's license. So we'll start with age again. If the age is under 16, he's not eligible for driver's license. If he's greater than 16 but below 18, then he'll be eligible only for learner's license. If he's greater than 18 and below 25, he's eligible for probationary license. And at last, if he's over 25, he will have a full license. If you observe closely, what we are doing here is just adding a couple of if-else statements together. Let's see how do we do that in code. After each else, we will add another if statement at the end of else and start a new block, which is an else if block. In the very first condition, I'm checking for the age if is greater than 25. Then we will console log that he can apply for a full license. Then we will use an else if block to check whether the age is greater than 18. Then we will mark him for a probationary license. Likewise, we will also add a third condition where we will check if the age is lesser than 18 and greater than 16, then we'll mark him for a learner's license. And at last, if the person does not meet any of these criteria, that means he is under 16, he will not be provided license. So we will log it in else block. Now let's test with some different inputs. Initially, I had set age is equal to 18. So if I run this code now, it will say can apply for probationary license. So now let us look at some different inputs. Now I will change the age variable to the value 36, which is greater than 25, so it should say can apply for full license. We rerun the if statement, you can see the result can apply for full license. Now let's change the age again. This time we'll make it 19. If you rerun, it says can apply for probationary license. Likewise, I've also tested for different combinations. Now if I change the age to something between 16 and 18, we should be seeing the result. Now if we change the age to 17, we see the result can apply for learner's license. Good, our code is working as expected. Hope you understood the if-else ladder. Other important thing I forgot to mention earlier was a condition in front of else, which is not possible. Let us look how it works. So I have tried to give a condition in front of else. When I run this code, I got an error saying unexpected token flower braces. That is because we have passed a condition in front of else, which is not allowed in JavaScript. Let's try and change this code and rerun the code. Now we will change the code with just else and will make the condition false so that the else block will run. The else block is run successfully. I just want you to know that we cannot pass a condition in front of else. Moving on. We've already seen this code when we wrote an if-else ladder. So I'm showing you this because now we are going to talk about switch. Switch is another control flow statement available in JavaScript. So instead of having to write if else every time, we will just change this and see how to use switch instead of if else ladder. We will clear the console and start by writing switch keyword. In this, we will pass whether the condition is true or false. So you can add cases for the switch. So you initially check for the condition and then add different cases. If the case like if age is greater than 25, one of your conditions will be satisfied. Hence, you will provide the statement that needs to be executed. Once you execute the statement, you will have to provide break. Break is another keyword in JavaScript. What it does is, once all the statements are executed, it'll come out of the control flow. Likewise, you give all three cases which you will check for as we did in if-else ladder code. At the end, your code should look something similar to what is shown on the video. Now, we have also added another keyword called default. If none of the cases matches, then at last default will be executed. This is similar to the last else block of an if-else ladder. Also, please change the condition in front of switch to true instead of age. Now, let us test our switch block. See, earlier I had provided age is greater than 25, hence I've got full license. Let's change the age to 36 again to test what happens. The condition is satisfied at the very first case, hence we get full license. Let's run with some other values for age. When I provide 17 and rerun the switch statement, it says learner's license. Likewise, if I change the value to something under 16, it says not eligible. Now we see that our code is working properly. This is what we expected. Hope you understood how switch works. Let's move on to ternary operators. Ternary operator is an operator that takes three arguments. The first argument is a comparison argument, the second one is the result upon true comparison, and the third one is the result upon false comparison. Let us code that. Here I want you to observe the syntax. The very first one is a comparison argument. After that, we have a console log which says 1 is greater. That will be executed if the condition is true. We have a colon and then our third argument which will be executed if the condition is false. Now the condition is false because 1 is not greater than 2. Hence 2 is greater is logged onto the console. Hope you understood. Let's relate it to one of our previous examples. Let's take age as an argument and see what happens if age is greater than 16 and if it is lesser than 16. So here we will check the value of age. If the value of age is greater than 16, we will console log permitted to drive, else will console log not permitted. So earlier I had given age less than 16, hence it was not permitted. Let's change the value to 17 and see what happens. So when I change the value to 17 and rerun the expression, we see permitted to drive. This is how a ternary operator works. Hope you understood everything about ternary operators and other control flow statements. That's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. If you like the content, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you.